Today is going to be a perfect story at so many levels. Blake the Snake Neff is alleged, and it's not alleged, you can see a particular quote, a quip that he authored, and it looks something like this. It says, once again, Candace is implicitly attacking Charlie himself, basically claiming his entire life's work was a sham from the beginning. But that's what she needs to push her narcissistic coonspiracy slop. Coonspiracy slop. Was this a mistake? Was this scrivener's error? Was this an erratum? Was this a de minimis, negligible, unimportant little, or was it not? What remedial efforts were made? What correction was made? What apologies came? What reaction followed this? Which one would think normally would happen if you wrote something and you didn't intend to do it, especially when he has scores and legions of people ostensibly watching what he does, I would imagine, certainly watching what she does, watching what everybody else does, watching what Barron does. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about that. And a depth and a level, as we normally do. We will start off ostensibly with the subject matter, but we'll go far deeper. And today is no exception. But first, my friend, this critical word. Everybody's talking about AI, a smarter future, a faster future, everything connected, everything in the cloud. Well, what happens? What happens when it breaks? What happens when the system holding your money gets hacked or artificial intelligence becomes sophisticated enough to identify patterns and exploit weaknesses and target the accounts you trusted with your financial future? Think about it. How much of what you own exists only as numbers on a screen? That's why so many Americans are choosing something real, physical gold, physical silver, assets you can actually hold. Click the special link below to learn how Noble Gold can deliver precious metals to your door or place them in a tax-advantaged retirement account. And to celebrate America's 250th birthday, viewers who use my link and open a new qualified account will receive a free 10-ounce silver bar. In an increasingly digital world, own something real. Protect what you've earned. Click the special link below now. Well, it appears, my friend, that the subject that the what we will discuss today and the parameters of it start off with this very, very simple case. It reads as follows. Blake Neff, who's whatever his role is, an interesting man who, well, years ago, I believe, worked for Tucker, worked at Fox, and had to leave, was it in 2020, who apparently was using a pseudonym or a nom de guerre or a nom de merde, as I call it, was responsible for writing or tweeting or something terrible that was racist in nature or what have you, and he was called out on it. And he was castigated, forced to leave. It was really, it was stupid. It also shows something else. It shows a kind of a nastiness, this impudent, petulant little, like the troll mentality hiding behind names. But then again, the Federalist Papers hid behind, names. And anyway, I'm not going to get too deep into this. The question is, when this is presented, when he writes, once again, Candace is implicitly attacking Charlie himself, basically claiming his entire life's work was a sham from the beginning, but that's what she needs to push her narcissistic coonspiracy. Now, they, of course, are going to be saying, that was a mistake. That was, again, as I say, that was an erratum. That was a scrivener's error. That's a legal term. Whenever we make a mistake, we have a little bit of a mistake Didn't mean that. Well, what you normally do is what you normally would see is you see, well, how quickly did they correct it? How did they react? How aghast were they? If you're going to say something that you think is wrong, you say, I most certainly did not do that. That was not meant to be. Whatever it is, you react. Silence is an affirmation. That's an approbation. That is an endorsement. That is saying, well, it's the way it is. Is not that fascinating? I think so, dear friend. But let's see. Thanks to, of course, the inimitable, the ineffable, the one, the only, the intellectually immane Mr. Coleman, Mr. Barron. Brad. He provides the following, which provides a great kind of a prolegomenon, so to speak, kind of a précis, a proem, a prefatory statement, an introduction, so that you know better of what's going on here.
Ladies and gentlemen, after you post something to X, you have two options. At any point, you can delete it. You can remove it. But within 60 minutes, you can correct it. So, for example, if you meant to type conspiracy slop, you would type that out, and then you publish it, and all of a sudden people are like, Blake. You said coonspiracy slop, and that sounds really racist. You go, oh my gosh, you're right, that does sound racist. I should change that. And you would take one of those O's out. Maybe the first one, maybe the second one. Doesn't really matter. Just pull one of them. But if you're going to leave it there beyond the 60-minute window in which you can delete it, amend it, edit it, you can still delete it. You still have that option. That option doesn't go away. At any point, you can go back and delete old tweets. They've been doing that to Charlie for a while. So you could go back and delete it. I suppose there's a third option where you could add a clarifying statement. You could say, hey, by the way, I did not mean to say this. I know this sounds terrible. I would never say this about Candace Owens. This came out all wrong. Please accept my deepest and sincerest apologies. I do believe she's a conspiracy theorist. I do believe she engages in conspiracy slop.
Yes.
I would never use racially derogatory language.
My point.
Candace,
Exactly.
and I apologize for that. I hope she accepts it.
Exactly.
That option is still on the table.
Absolutely.
To my knowledge, he has not done any of those three things. None. He's chosen instead just to leave it up.
And by the by, just to give you an idea, the longer that you take to respond, let's say he does, or maybe he has, maybe as of Friday at 9:10 a.m. Eastern time, maybe he did. I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But when you have people who scour every inch of this endeavor, when every aspect, everything, when everything is reviewed and poured over, and and I know that somebody along the way would say, hey, Blake, yeah, listen, we're kind of watching this. Did you write coonspiracy? Yeah, I did. Oh, okay. You sure you want that? Yeah, I did. Okay, fine. Which is one thing. And in addition, by the way, to, and you probably you might take offense at this. I hope not. If he meant to say that, not only is it worse than being racist, it's stupid. Racist is one thing. Stupid bothers me more. I know you're not supposed to say that. Get it right. Show some panache. Show. I mean, to do a bad pun. What is this? Negative or infantile paronomasia? Is that it? Are we going to put you in the penitentiary? It's if that's true. Anyway, but the amount of time that elapses, is what makes it even more interesting, and what makes it even more problematic, because you would think somebody would move in immediately and not wait. So that's a consideration too. So anyway, if anybody knows, let me know. And you know, and I do. Hell, I look up in the morning. I got up very early this morning. And I looked up and there it is. Wow. Boom. It takes a second. And they watch everything that Candace says, everything that Barron says, everything that everybody else says. So I think it's safe to say, I think one can deduce that because nothing was done to change it or amend or emend or expurgate, modularize, or ablate, edit, whatever you want to call it, expurgate, because that didn't happen, they must be tacitly, they must be assenting to it. They must be ratifying it. They must be endorsing it.
And it's been the talk of the town. Pretty much everybody agrees that looks really bad. And it looks particularly bad in light of Blake Neff's history of being a rabid racist.
Here we go.
You remember, Blake Neff was originally fired from Fox News and Tucker Carlson's show.
Yep.
Because he was quoting on a internet message board called Auto Admit. It's an incel forum. It's where angry men who can't get women go and they vent. And apparently Blake found himself quite at home there. In 2016, for example, he said, and the N-words are always honor students or some bull doo-doo.
You know, I still hate the N-word. I'm sorry. I know we're not supposed to say it, and I won't. But it's still, to this day, it's like, it's so stupid. When I'm quoting, I want you to hear it. They didn't say N-word. I don't know. Because the longer, believe it or not, the longer that it's held in this, I mean, I don't use the word, but even in a quote, the longer that we hold it in this esteem, the longer the steam, or the sting rather, is maintained. Just a word.
Okay, nice. In 2020, he said, I'm going to blanket this with allegedly, but I think he's admitted to it. But nevertheless, allegedly. In 2020, June 5th of 2020, he said, black dudes staying inside playing Call of Duty is probably one of the biggest factors keeping crime down. In other words, we know all black dudes are out to kill. And if they're not killing people in public in the streets, they're probably killing people online. And we're thankful that the public crime rate is going down, meaning they're probably just killing people online.
Precisely.
That's Charlie Kirk show producer Blake Neff.
And Tucker, when he and Fox heard about this, he immediately withdrew. Plus the Marines, there was something I read about. He was in some kind of a capacity of either of the, I don't know what the word is, some kind of an advisory capacity with the Marines. Even they said, that's it, we're done. We're done with this. And for good reason.
24th, 2020, not to be outdone. He said, honestly, given how tired black people always claim to be, maybe the real crisis is their lack of sleep. I've known a lot of black people. I've never known them to be narcoleptic, particularly tired. Maybe, I don't know. The fact that Candace Owens runs circles around you ought to tell you it's not a racial issue. And that's not even to mention the 5-year reign of terror Blake Neff led against an Asian administrator at his former university, where he called her an Asian mega shrew, stalked her Facebook page, talked about vacations she took, dates she'd been on. And it was pretty bad. And
you see, what's interesting about this is let's go deeper into it, shall we? First and foremost, this appears to be one of the most dangerous people out there. And let me tell you why. There's something about the sniper, the kind of like the stalker, the person who it basically wants to terrorize, to let you know that I am, how do I say this? That I am I'm here, but I don't want you to know who I am. I'm never good enough about letting you see who I am. I'm not interested in that. In a related story, and for purposes of like, there were two people I know, one whose name was pretty big, the other one was big shot in media, who basically sent, they were involved in sexting, one to an allegedly an underage woman, another one to a woman or whatever it is. Okay. Now, when this happened, I said, do you understand what we are seeing here? We're seeing somebody who does not want to confront you. They want to scare you, shock you, like the old day, like the exhibitionist. The exhibitionist, we really don't have those anymore because I think life's an exhibition. But the exhibitionist, the flasher, wanted to scare, embarrass. He wanted you, the woman, to be embarrassed. Obscene phone calls, same thing. Same thing. Before caller ID, many people don't even remember this. I actually prosecuted one time a guy for obscene. It was the hardest thing to do because you had to do pen registers. But a friend of mine got one, and for some reason, I was the expert in obscene phone calls. I don't know why, because they heard I prosecuted, and I said, I don't know how to stop this. But then I thought to myself, because believe it or not, we had a little training, so to speak, from the FBI types in terms of like profiling who are these people. And the thing that they want to know the worst is disclosure. So I said what these people should say the next time the phone call comes, because remember, there was no caller ID. The phone rang, and there was no answering machines either. You couldn't miss a. You didn't know if that call was from the doctor or your job or some pervert. So I said, do this, and I just thought, I don't know if it's kind of seemed to make sense to me. Just say, I know who this is, and hang up. This will freak that person out. They're not going to risk doing it again because now, first of all, you've done two things. First of all, you've identified him. You've like turned the light on. You're not anonymous anymore, and you can't scare me, and you don't. So and it worked for whatever it's worth. It always worked in these cases. There was somebody who was rather famous who was texting somebody, and he never actually even met this woman. It was enough for him to take a picture of his schwanz, send it to her, and then talk about what he was going to do with this, lethal weapon, this gargantuan, mentulate, great word, mentulate, baby's arm with an apple in his fist, gargantuan dorkage. Okay. Anyway, he wanted to talk about how basically she would be so not only shocked, but perhaps maybe injured or crippled by virtue of this encounter. Meanwhile, he never met her. Most people would say, hey, let's get together. What are you doing? Forget the pictures. I'll show you the real thing. Let me meet you. Not him. No. And I always thought to myself, that was so odd. And he did some prison time. I thought, that's so odd because you're standing next to somebody. Well, you're calling somebody. But by the way, not to belabor the point, but in New York, at least, if you were standing next to like a person, like even a kid, and you were to expose yourself as one thing, believe it or not, that was a bit hard to say, but if you said something untoward, it certainly wouldn't be federal. This guy did federal time because I never understood that. I'm not in support of him. I'm just telling you. Another guy this guy had it made, and he sends a picture to somebody he works with or somebody he knew. I mean, this is demented. Okay. This is demented. Let me show you another example very quickly. This guy, I was going to time it, but play it for you, but I didn't want to do it because the languages. The guy who was in Jack Reacher, my beloved Jack Reacher, the big muscle-bound dude, that? He went off on Trump, and I mean, you can't believe what he's saying. Especially in view of what Mick Jagger said recently about stars and entertainers should keep to themselves what they think. Anyway, you got to listen to this. You won't be able to believe it. You can't believe it. So they hide. There's no circuit breaker. There's no alarm. There's no brakes. There's no like, whoa, wait a minute. There's no alarm that goes on. Like, you can't do that, dude. Hey, dude, you can't do that. You can't do that. But to want to be the peeping Tom, to want to be somebody, because Neff is like the most, from what I'm seeing, the most dangerous and also the most pathetic. The incel scene, the involuntarily celibate. And also, another one too was really up, is Nick Fuentes. Such a smart guy. He's so smart, but he is really twisted. I mean, not dangerous twisted, just he's all over the place. And what happens is, he is a 2-liter bottle of soda, Coke, okay? That's for you. Life is a Mento. And every now and then, somebody will drop life or something, an event, a stressor, something will come along, and it will drop into his. And that's his life. And he can't stop it. He doesn't know what to do. Blake, the snake, the flake, is one of them. And as we speak, somebody at TPUSA, now I don't know this for a fact, but somebody at TPUSA is saying, the old expression, in my office now, close the door. By the way, never in corporate worlds you ever say close the door today. You don't do that. They would say to you, number one, Erica, you're gone. Blake, you're really gone. You're already gone, to use the Eagles term. I don't know what's going on, my friends. I don't know where you are. I don't know what happened. I turned around, but our donors are now saying, forget it. This is a pageant of pusillanimous little twits, little spin trees. Look up that one. That's a good one. You are children. One more sniveling, nose-picking, booger-eating. You are just the vilest of immature babies, little girls. Without, you know what? Forget, if that's unfair. Little girls are smart. You're just kids off their meds or something. We don't understand you. We don't understand any of this. And I think I can speak on behalf of everybody, if you don't mind, by saying, listen, we don't mean any harm, but just when you think, I think maybe they've toned down, you do something again. You will say something more vile, more stupid, more intellectually extraneous. How do you expect to do this? All of you. There's not one person. You know, in the Trump administration, between you and me, there ain't a lot I'm crazy about. Sorry. And the only guy there is like, well, there's Scott Bessent. Okay, there's Bessent. Okay, all right. At least he's the adult. At least he's, At TPUSA, there is no Bessent. There is no adult. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. There's no adult. There's nobody there. None. It doesn't exist. It's the most incredible thing in the world. It does not exist. It doesn't exist. They are locked in the room. They have barricaded themselves. They're on the phones, and they're basically doing things in the name of TPUSA that is just. And today, you and I know the tripwire, the thing that is when you find yourself in a position where if you make a mistake, it's one thing where if you make a mistake and all of a sudden somebody says, I don't think he meant coon. I think he meant conspiracy. But when you're this guy, and by the way, why he's even, I keep saying, by the way, forgive me. It's a crutch of mine. When Blake, the flake, the snake, has been known for this. Why is he working with them in the first place? Now, Tucker and Fox at the time, after this happened, they got rid of him. And by the way, he is, sorry, doing it again, he is a smart fellow. He's not dumb, well, personally, but if allowed to write or to, think, he's very good at that. So you have to ask yourself this question: who was in charge? Who ever sanctioned Laura Loomer to meet with Zelensky? Where is NATO in that? Where is somebody can hold it? Wait a minute, hold it. With all due respect, Double L, nothing against you, hon, but we can't do this. We're on the left. They're going to pull the plug, and this is no. What is Charles Manson not available? This woman is in the definition, is in the OED as batshit crazy. And you're meeting with Zelensky? Tell me this is AI. I couldn't even tell if it was real. That's one thing about AI today. I don't know if it's real. So this is something. Now, I want to show you something which is also important. And this is very, very fascinating. When I tell people, I'm saying you're missing the story of stories. And the reason why is because you don't understand what's happening. This is a story that doesn't lend itself that often. The OJ case did not have a lot of background. There wasn't anything that particularly interesting about OJ. There wasn't anything that particularly interesting, I'm sorry to say, about Nicole Brown Simpson, or I'm sorry to say, Ron Goldman. They were good people, but there was nothing really, there were no great interpersonal. The only thing of any interest was that Marcia Clark allegedly was, Christopher Darden. I keep thinking of Pooh Corner. Christopher Darden went out. Anyway, so Johnny Cochran, Van Adder, and Lang, nothing. There was this. Has Murder, has Charlie, has Erica and Candace and Charlie, Candace and TPUSA, Candace and Ben Shapiro and Charlie, Ben Shapiro and Zionism, or whatever you want to call it, Trump, everybody, the world in this scrum. This is the most exciting story there is. You want true crime? We got it. You want proof? You got it. You want a criminal? We got it. We got everything here. It's all here, all before your very, very eyes. It is the most incredible story in the world, bar none. It is incredible. And the story keeps getting more and more interesting as it goes along. And we'll get to the Zionism thing in a moment, because let me ask you something. Show of hands. Say this. Be honest. Who never even, you might have heard the word, but who never ever heard Zionism even mentioned before October the 7th of 2023? How many of you are saying, I don't want to say this, but I still don't know exactly what Zionism is. Is it what? I don't know. Is it about Jews or Israel? I'm not really sure. Can you really explain it? You understand that? This is the part which is most important. This is the part. And I got to stop for 1 second. I love the streams, but you guys stay too focused on small potatoes. You see, the picture is much broader than one branch of a crooked tree, and Catholics and Christians may never admit how wrong they are. I got to ask you something. What are you doing? I've got to ask these people, what is it? Do you go into, for example, if you were at a bar and two people were talking, would you say, excuse me, yeah, you two dames, you've got it all wrong. Somebody else said before, that's not the issue. The issue is the collapse of the empire. I know you'd like to sound important, and maybe in your life, maybe people didn't let you speak up enough. But do us a favor. We got one rule. Don't be a dick. Don't sit there and say, wait a minute, this isn't, I don't know what you're talking about. Go someplace else. And I'm serious. Go and tell them and say, you know what, this isn't really that. Go into any chat room, anybody else, they're talking about the World Cup or they're talking about tapioca recipes, and tell them, hey, listen, this doesn't matter. I know what's going on. You proles don't get it. You're just a bunch of, you're like some, I don't know what you are, but you just don't get it. I know. You understand this? But here's the question I had. Did you know what this was? Can you define what Zionism is? I submit you can't. It's Israel. It's a code word for Israel, right? That's what you do. Neocon was kind of like a catch-all for warmonger, war profiteer, right? I promise you, most people do not understand what Zionism is. They don't understand the difference between, is it anti-Semitic? Is it racist? There is a fellow who's a rabbi. I swear to you, he's the most confusing, very, very good. If you think you know what it is, nope. So first you have to understand this. This is something which is brand new. And I promise you, I did something today on X at Lionel Media. I hope you follow it. I wrote a pretty, it's not that long, but it's like, please stop saying psychopath, sociopath, antisocial personality disorder, APD, maybe ASPD, maybe. Stop saying these words. Stop saying I've got the receipts. Stop saying bruh and no problems, and stops. You know what I mean? Just stop this. Because it's one of those things that I promise you. But the first thing I wanted to tell you was you'll never hear the word more. You'll never hear the word more than now. And I promise you, most people, including people that I know who are Jews, seriously, some have no idea what it means. They don't understand the context of it. Context. You know how sometimes we have things that we have Christianity and we have Catholicism. We have Christianity, we have Protestantism. We have Christianity, we have Islam, and we have Judaism. Okay, some are religions, some are Christianity is, of course, Christ. I know people who can't tell you the difference between Protestant and Catholic. They can't tell you this. I know this. I know for a fact. They say, well, I was raised Catholic. That's not what I meant. What does it mean? Well, I go to Catholic church. It's not what it means. What does it mean? What does it mean? People use terms all the time incorrectly. The word that we should be using a lot of times is traffickers and predators, and we use pedophile, which means somebody who is interested, who is sexually attracted to people of a certain age. It's called a chronophile. And there's a phebophile and hebephile, there's gerontophiles, and there's all these variations. But it just means an attraction. If you don't ever do anything, if you don't take pictures of kids, download, hurt, harm, buy, sell, trade, prey upon, it's nothing. It's an idea. It's an idea. But to traffic is a different story. And most of the people who traffic in children or do it just for the money. They have no idea. They'll traffic in anything. Stolen goods, rare animals, shark fins. They don't care what it is. And I've given up on that because once a word becomes part of the vernacular, it's a fad. And the fad overtakes the lexicon. And speaking precisely, that notwithstanding, is critical. I was watching something I implore you to watch. It's called PBS. I think it was a documentary. It was called Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Oh, my God. You will love this. He's the one who used, for the first time, phloxinoxynihilipilification in a sentence. He's famous for that. He was quite the wordsmith. Born in Hell's Kitchen. And one of the things he did was he talked about, this was 1970. Yeah, it was during Nixon, I think. Yeah, 72 or something. Somalia introduced a UN resolution to declare Zionism racist. They wanted a United Nations follow, and he was the U.S. ambassador to the UN, and he went crazy. And they interviewed Kissinger, who's a Jew, and Judaism, as you know, and Zionism are not as connected because we have Christian Zionists, not necessarily Judaism. And Kissinger said, Pat Moynihan just didn't understand. He says, the way you do it is you just put it in a committee, it gets absorbed, it just goes away. We were making big deals with Russia at the time, and he was going after them. He didn't understand. Well, this was 1972. So it's been around for a while. And you've got to hear the arguments. Then they sound identical to what's going on, but he knew what was going on right there. And the sad to say, the discussions that we're having, and with all due respect to a lot of people on various TV shows, I guarantee you, if you watch any cable TV show, you're missing the chance to really understand some of the most fascinating issues that have affected all of us, and they are worthy of our times. There's an Xer or Twitter Syrian girl, and I think she's terrific. Following her for the longest time. People, of course, don't like her because she's from Syria and probably has a different perspective than people in Tel Aviv. Probably. Which all that doesn't make any sense. But she is talking about this notion. And people have been discussing this issue about Zionism. Candace brought it to the attention. Max Blumenthal is really going hard. And against Iran. And they caught him on the street, of course, and he's drops a lot of F-bombs. He can't do that. If you want to be a credible person, you can't do that. Because when you look pissed off, it looks like you don't know what you're talking about. Somebody pissed you off, and nobody really knows how to be cool about this whole thing. How to maintain a certain cool. Don't get upset. Engage people, because you'll find most of the time people don't know what they're talking about. Always engage with somebody. Say, that's very interesting. And then ask them a question about what they're doing, and they can't answer the question. Don't attack them. Say, that's pretty stupid. Okay. So what we're going on right now, what's happening with all this stuff right now? I promise you. Blake Neff, Colvett, they couldn't care less about Israel, Zionism, nothing. It's the people, the organizations, the factions, the individuals who are either endorsing this, ratifying, or encouraging them. And by the way, it's not necessarily, and again, they've come up with this idea that everything is an anti-Semitic trope whenever you bring up something. The same thing happened when people years ago, when people had, when conservatives kind of came out of the woodwork. There was a picture one time of Ann Coulter. There's a reason why I'm saying this. Don't think I'm rambling. There's a reason for this. At least I think there's a reason. Ann Coulter had the back of her book. She was firing a rifle. She had a rifle. So she's showing you, I'm a conservative. I'm into the Second Amendment. I'm into guns. Tammy Bruce, who was I think she was a spokesman at the State Department or something. I don't know what she did. Very, very literate, but she's one of these Foxers. And on the picture of the cover of one of her books, she's holding a gun. As a Second Amendment stalwart, as an apostle of Tench Cox, as somebody who used to use lock and load as I was so passionately in the Second Amendment. This is 30, 40 years ago when it was kind of new. When people act like they're conservative by taking on God's guns and war and military and flags. These people make me sick. They always say, well, I'm going to be a conservative. I'm a fox. Let me get honey, have you seen my American flag lapel pin? Do you see my American flag and Israel lapel pin? Do you have my American flag, Israel, and the CIA? Hannity had like a CIA, I think it was CIA lapel pin. It's like, you got to be kidding. What are you doing? Those people are clowns. These are people playing the role. These are people who don't understand what we're talking about. They really aren't the deal. And I was watching, again, this Moynihan thing. It was fantastic. They had Norman Podhoretz, George Will. This is at their peak. Oh, it was a grand time. He was a real neoconservative. Norman Podhoretz was absolutely Irving Kristol, Scoop Jackson Democrats. These were real Straussian neocons. And who was it? Moynihan was so furious at you, and they threw them in too. He was a New Deal Democrat. And these names that I mentioned now, nobody even knows what that means today. So just remember, this is nothing new. Don't get into the name calling only. It's fun to say Blake is this, he's a twit, he looks like a fist with eyes, he's a schlub, he looks like a penis, whatever, fine. That's okay. People love to talk about the way they look. How everybody looks. Laura Loomer's face is ugly, she's ugly, this one's ugly, this and that. Look at Erica, she's this, that's good for a few minutes. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about looks. We're talking about something even more important. There is a movement that's going on here. And out of this came this wild, it sounds weird, October the 7th. Of course, this is when the Hamas, the attack, the hostages, everybody swept towards that. And then from that, as it settled, everybody said to Israel, to which respond, of course. Then we said, whoa, wait, hey, psst, wait a minute, hold it. This is not commensurate with. And then a lot of people there thought, oh, no. We have carte blanche, October the 7th. You don't understand. No, we're not saying you can't retaliate. But this, you can't drop a nuclear bomb on Gaza just because. Well, and then that went on. Then they tried something which they've been doing for the longest time, which everybody's been doing. They had Heritage Foundation, which is a great group. They had Second Amendment groups. They had climate groups. Sometimes they were paid, Code Pink. Everybody gets their money from something, from someplace. Volunteers. It takes money to take trains and go places and do stuff. But never was anything really as well oiled. And I say this out of respect because it's their First Amendment right. Absolutely. Forget Citizens United and all that. I don't care about that. But not Israel, but the Israeli government. Really, because that's the way it is. It's like America and the American government. But they were phenomenal. And next thing you know, how many also, raise your hand, how many never heard the word AIPAC? Never heard it before. You say, what's that? I didn't even hear about, be honest with you, I would get TPUSA and CPAC kind of confused because all these groups, like, oh, another conservative group, what the hell? But how many of you, seriously, show of hands, just put one, had you never heard AIPAC? What's that? I mean, AFLAG? I mean, the duck? No, AIPAC? AIPAC. What is AIPAC? I like bald face, but that's a different story. You see this? Oh, another one too is everybody says, just to save the shekel. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing it just for the shekel. See what I mean? And it's like, okay, no. Just the, okay. And people are saying, That's anti-Semitic. No, it's not anti-Semitic. It's a trope. It's like it's like we always say, but nobody heard about this. Nobody, no, I never heard of any of this stuff. This is brand new. So some people jump into the cacophony, and they kind of grab a few words and they're into the fight. It's like, wait a minute, do you know what you're saying? Well, no, but it doesn't matter. I'll just say what everybody else does because I want to be a part of this. This looks like a bar fight, and I want to be in it. Okay, I'm not into bar fights. I'm into the long term. What are we talking about long term? That's what this is about. It's fascinating. Unbelievable. So anyway, so now you've got people. And the people who are behind it are saying, first of all, to Laura Loomer, whoever arranged this thing with Zelensky, stop that. We don't want to. Sorry, Laura. No offense, double L, but you're coming across like a nutcase, and we don't need this. Somebody has picked up the phone and say, I don't know what happened here, but between Charlie, the Hamptons meeting, the Ackman meeting, whether this happened or not, people keep saying this. And Candace, all of a sudden, there is this swath, this movement of people who know about Zionism, AIPAC, Israel, war, Iran, and they never, ever said anything about this until now. Kent, Massey, MTG, Tucker's on fire. You see what I'm saying? So if somebody says, this is about the collapse of the society, you're not understanding this. World War I was the Archduke Ferdinand. Some guy shot, whatever it was. The Arab Spring was supposedly that fruit monger, that seller who burned himself in protest. Remember that? It was just a guy. That was Arab Spring, supposedly. It takes one little thing to just trigger. We're in the middle of something which is it is cataclysmic, and it's changing everything. It's changing everything before your very eyes. And what it's also doing for those people who think that, how do I say this? When people who think that, it's all, that there's other stuff is more important. We're seeing a coalition of people who normally we would not particularly care for. I was never a Roger Waters fan. I always thought he was an arrogant dick. Just the way he would say so. His personality was like, do you have to act like that? And of course, Piers Morgan, who is so despicable. He just puts people together. He doesn't care one thing or another. He just throws people together. Tonight we have a Nazi and a rabbi. It's like, what are you doing? What do you do? We have a Klans member, and you used to do this, Morton Downey Jr., Geraldo. We have the Ku Klux Klan, the Grand Cyclops, and somebody from the Urban League. Because we hope they're going to beat the shit out of each other, and that's not my idea of intellectual good time. I still am of a Crossfire fan, and I think that there's nothing more sexy and delicious than the actual truth, not the histrionics, not this melodramatic, curated, performative nonsense that people are doing. So what's going on right now is enormous, and the implications are everywhere. And right now in the middle, guess who's stuck? Trump is thinking, what am I doing? Trump is talking about, are we going to go into Iran? I know nobody. I know people. The only ones who are for it are the Fox News crowd, who they don't know what the hell they want. They just figure, okay, do I like guns? Like Ann Coulter. I like guns? Okay, great. You want me to have the picture with the rifle? Can I borrow your rifle? Because then, okay. Tammy Bruce with a gun, and we want war, and we hate Iran. Somebody sent me one the other day. They said, this is a Muslim who said that the Iranian people are the worst. I said, okay, fine. And Max Blumenthal, I guess, was walking around in D.C. or something, and some Iranians caught up with him and gave him a ration of shite. And the argument should have been, I'm not saying they're good people. I'm not saying we should like them. I'm saying what we need to do is we need to ask ourselves, do we want to be at war with them? Our good friend Sparky says Scott Bessent is a Soros stooge who is hell-bent on crashing the world economy so he can short it for the largest wealth transfer in the history of the universe. Great. Well, not everybody agrees with that or thinks of that, and I will put my money on you. But what I'm saying is, when you have the Kash Patels, when you have this Hegseth, we had Pam Bondi, this guy Blanche is, you've got everybody there wondering what's going on. We have, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. The one who comes across who was not doing pull-ups and picking up snakes, Bobby Kennedy, the one who seems rational, people say, okay, is Bessent. But you're always going to find somebody. Bessent's a Soros stooge. J.D. Vance is a Peter Thiel stooge. Marco Rubio is a kind of a gusano, one of these Alpha 66 anti-Castro lunatic. You can say that about everybody. Bobby Kennedy is some deranged ex-heroin addict. So what happens is, and I love you for that, but everybody loves to say, well, let me give you an idea. You don't understand this. Marjorie Taylor Greene is and everybody's got this thing about them. Nobody is ever a babe in the woods. Nobody ever comes along and says, well, he's pretty good at this. No, they're always some double agent for something else. And I'm not saying it's not true. And it's good that we notice this. But most people will look at you and they say, I don't know what you're saying. I try with the Soros. See, Soros has lost his sting. He really has. In the old days, you say Soros, people go crazy. Rothschild. And it's not. People get kind of tired of it. They say, who are they again? The banker. Oh, yeah, the banker. Yeah. CFR, Trilateral Commission. Remember that in the old days? You just say that. Remember the NSA? Say NSA and they go crazy. Well, now the tropisms, the memes are a little bit different now. Now it's a different story. And coming back to the Candace was so interesting because what she is doing is she is simplifying. She is condensing in one little pill, one time-released information pill, things that people would have never known or cared about had it not been for her. As Milo said, she is dangerous. She's deadly. She has more power than anything you can imagine. I don't want to say whether it's big, who's big, Charlie or she. I don't know. Charlie was waking up in the end. I want to talk about something else which is important, and we talked about this, which I find so interesting. This goes back to the issue of the human reaction part, the human take. I love this. When, watch Moynihan on, is it, not Frontline, but whatever this documentary was. You know, it's so funny, Hell's Kitchen, where he was from, much of The Godfather was set in Hell's Kitchen. Absolutely. I think Luca Brasi lived in Hell's Kitchen. Sparky says, fun fact, Pete Hegseth was introduced to the media around 2010 by Lindsey Graham. Before that, Pete was Lindsey's rent boy. Well, they showed some pictures of, it's funny, nobody's talking about him anymore, and nobody's talking, Sparky, about Mitch McConnell. Where is Mitch McConnell? Don't know. Hey, what happened to Epstein? I don't know. What happened to Charlie? I don't know. What happened to Mitch McConnell? I don't know. We don't know. We're the only country. We just say, I don't know. Nobody. Is here Scott Jennings, your buddy on CNN? Oh, I talked to him for a good time. I'm from Kentucky, and I talked to him for 20. What'd you talk about? Stuff. Oh, come on. Come on. Anywho, Candace has, if ever there's anybody who showed the real reaction, not the curated, not the performative, not the choreographed, pretend virtue signaling nonsense that most people do, it's Candace. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now remember, this is important. This is important. I want you to watch this for a minute. And I want you to say, I want to show you what love looks like. And I want you to look. She wasn't married to Charlie, but there is not one moment that Erica has ever said that even can approximate this.
People look like Candace, that whatever you're doing.
Look at her face. Stop. Now, but before we do this, and I'm going to stop you a lot, I want you to look at something here. Now, you've been a human being for a long time. Look at this. Look at the way she looks at her friend. Look at the eyes. Look at the attention. Look at how she watches. Listen to her tone of voice. Look at all the cues you know from being an adult, from you yourself having feelings and being a human being. Look at all of the feelings and all the love that she feels towards her friend, as we talked about. This is more than any staged, mic'd funeral home performance.
With people like Candace, that whatever you're doing,
Look,
that can relate.
Yeah, I just want to see like the first minute.
When you say something that they're going to tell you, the truth, and they're going to be honest, but they'll also have your back.
Watch
and I
the
understand
eyes.
this might sound cliche, but it's so hard to find that.
Watch your
It's so
eyes.
hard to find that kind of loyalty that,
now.
the kind of
See?
the old expression is, when you're in a foxhole, you want someone who is not going to tell
Look at
you
that.
that there's no bullets being fired. You want just to say where the bullets
See
are
your
coming
eyes
from.
soften?
Yeah, that's
Right?
exactly right.
You
Yeah.
don't want
Oh,
someone in the foxhole
memory?
with you being like, well, you want to get a hot dog,
Right.
like maybe a burger, a smoothie. You want to say, no. There's a machine gun nest over
Right.
there. There's mortar shells coming
Watch your
from
eyes
there.
veer a
Here's
little
what we're going to do
Here's
to be
the
able
plan
to
of
do that.
action to get out of this.
She's accessing memories.
And that's the type of friend that you want. And you definitely don't want one that's going to run for the hills behind
Right.
you.
Yeah,
And
See
you're
your
like,
eyes soften?
we could
See
go
that?
on forever.
Holding
This
back
could be a
tears, see that?
5-hour podcast.
You see that? It's the most incredible thing in the world. It is so interesting, so wonderful. So wonderful. Sparky, by the way, who was so terrific with incidental, fascinating news. Fred McMurray's character in Double Indemnity was named Walter Neff. Same last name as Blake Neff. Coincidence? Yes. Elliot Ness? Coincidence? Yes. This, there's so much here. You pick the area you want. And what is the most interesting? I'm going to go back to this Moynihan story again. Please watch it. It's so good. The people who I've admired the most, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, they took the last train for the coast the day the music died. The people that I've admired are the people who forged their own interpretation, irrespective of the rules. Let me explain. Normally you have this. It's the one in the middle. There's conservative, there's liberal, then this. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, senator from New York, academic, and he was a guy who was raised in Hell's Kitchen. His father left. He was so dirt poor. He said that his family would break into homes. October the 1st, you would just break the lease and move in someplace because you had a month free. And he was a stevedore. He was a bartender. He went into the Navy, and he said things. He says, in my generation, there was an admiration and a love of this country. Why? Because he was a child of World War II. And he went to City College. City College produced some of the greatest minds ever. This is where people who couldn't go into school got public education. He said he never got a tuition bill in his life, and I think he graduated first in his class. He was brilliant. And if we're gonna spend money on anything, I'd rather it be education, provided it's a real education. In any event. So what happened was he wrote a memo to LBJ, and he said, one of the problems that we have, and I know about, is that you have to help black people. But what you need to do is you have to understand that their culture is such that they have broken families. A lot of them, and you know this to be true. Not all, but certainly then. These are matricentric, fatherless families. This is what he wrote in a memorandum he never intended to be made public. Never. So we spoke about this. He explained this. He talked about this. And it got out somehow. And the black voters, and they voted it, were furious. they came after him and he said, how dare you? And he learned then you're double crossed. If you don't say nobody wants your version of our story. We want you to give them our story. And our story was, give us money, give us funding, give us jobs. This is before affirmative action. And he says, no, I'm going to give you some training. But he was a person who changed his mind. Scoop Jackson, by the way, a Democrat who was really a hawk. Wild. People like Nixon, who was really smart. Kissinger. These are great tacticians. We don't have that today. We don't have that. We don't have anybody even remotely. Tampa Catholic aren't slouches. Tampa Catholic aren't slouches. Thank you, Pilgrim. I mean, TC, the school, that was our rival, so to speak, whatever that rivalry stuff was. Thank you for that. I don't know what a slouch is, but I thank you for that. That's like bold-faced lie. Bald face. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Short-lived, short-lived. Sparky says, I suppose Walter Neff was more like Charlie Kirk, and that he was a tall guy, victimized by a femme fatale. Of course, Erica isn't exactly Barbara Stanwyck. Excuse me, that's Miss Barbara Stanwyck. Remember Big Valley? She was a real... Let me tell you something. She was a killer. A lot of these people were supposedly... We're not really sure about some of these people. Lauren Bacall. Joan Crawford. Wow. Predator. We as Americans suffer because they were scared of Charlie. We never get to see him as president. Charlie would never have been president. I hope he never would be. Being president is the worst thing in the world you can possibly do. That's not the way to get things changed. Let me tell you something. What's going to be interesting right now is how history is going to look at Trump. Trump went in there with all these wonderful, grandiose ideas, and it's been towards the end, it's turning into a disaster. And when I tell people this, I'm saying, quit just clapping your hands like a seal, like some seal act at a circus. This is ridiculous. He doesn't know what he's doing. This is stupid. This Iranian policy is nuts. It's insanity. Don't you understand they're evil? Stop that. Not war. You don't want to fuck around with these people. You don't. And we're doing it not for us. We're doing it for Israel. Same thing we're doing with Ukraine. We're basically, you want to go to war with Russia? I don't. What does Ukraine have to do with it? And they'll bring somebody up and say, well, Russia did this. And go, okay, you want to go to war with them? That's the issue. Do you want to go to war? Put it this way. If you wanted to say, listen, there used to be these wonderful ads in the subway. One was Dr. Zizmore. Thank you, Dr. Zizmore. It was like, forget Morgan and Morgan. This guy in New York, he was like a dermatologist. He had this weird face. Thank you, Dr. Z, Dr. Zizmore. Another one, which I loved. Oh, yeah, Barbara Stanwyck was hot in her day. Quite edgy. Oh, yes, she was. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford played left field, right field, middle field, any field. These were wild. Clara Bow. I could tell you a story about Clark Gable and who was it? Jean Harlow. In any event, there was this ad for bunion surgery. And the feet fascinate me because of how much, just how important they are and how they have to handle you and hold you for your life. And they're 25% of all the bones in your body are in the feet. You'll hear where I'm going with this. And I look at people's feet, I look at pronation, where their feet go. Do you ever see somebody, you look at somebody, they're walking and they'll step on the side of their shoes because they're pronation. You know, if this is the way feet are, sometimes they're like this. Sometimes it's just, there's so many different ways that the women who wear Uggs, kids with it's no support. So what are you doing? Well, they look good. Stupid. High heels, stupid. Then you have bunions, which a lot of them, of course, are. It's genetic. But you have those wild bunions. And then you have the great toe, the hallux, goes to the right, these sharp turns. And they're just, it's like, why are they wearing sandals? Why are they, this looks like a fetlock. It's like some kind of a, I don't know what this thing is. Fascinating. Why are you doing that? Have you noticed that? Ever seen that? I know it's a free country. You can do whatever you want, but I mean, but they've got these people they've got toes are like this and like this. They go, what is this? What did you, was this an opera? Did you drop a safe on your foot? Well, I'm going to the pedicure. You're getting a pedicure for what? I mean, okay, fine, but I don't understand. I don't get that. I don't get this. One time there was I know this is so weird. We had a woman we worked with. She spent, I don't know how much money on her nails. And somebody pointed out to me, her heels, you could strike a match. They were not dry. They were like barnacled. It fastened. How can you miss this? You ever see men who have hair growing out of their ears? Where am I going with this? You'll see. You ever see this? Your nose, maybe, but your ears? Then somebody say, hey, your ears. You can't, you've got, what's going on here? You've got hair growing out of. Why are we doing this? Okay. Imagine if somebody went to you and said, listen, I've got these bunions. And somebody says, okay, I'll take care of that. Amputation. Look at Sparky says, Clara Bow was awesome in Wings. She was the original It girl. Oh, yeah. It was it, all right. And she would do it during her day. The 20s in particular has some of the most depraved Hollywood. Remember Hollywood Babylon? Go back to the 20s. So anyway, back to my analogy. So if you came in and said, amputation's in order, and you said, wait a minute, I said, I've got a bunion. Can't you shave it or cut it or file it down or redirect? No, I'm going to take care of this. You'll never have to worry about this again. You'll never feel, I'm going to give you an amputation. I'm going to amputate your foot. Now, that's Iran. There's problems with these people. The IRG, this one, the Islamic, the Kurds, you name the iteration. It's a theocratic, wild, the women got it. This, fine. War? You want war. You want amputation? There's no way else to fix it. No other way to fix this, right? And why are we doing this? It's not for us. Well, yes, it is. No, it's not. Why are we going out to try to wipe out? They can't have a nuclear weapon. Why? Who else can't have a nuclear? They weren't going to have one. Anyway, to make a long story short, people who never even knew about this before now are saying this for the first time. Thanks to whom? Candace, Charlie, Candace. Others are as well. Judge Napolitano is doing a wonderful job. John Mearsheimer, Colonel McGregor, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Monte. Go down the list. Scott Ritter, Pedro Escobar, Pepe, brother. It's just wonderful. But that's that group. Many people here said, I never knew what Zionism was. I never knew what AIPAC. I never heard of this because of Candace. That's why I respectfully submit she's the most powerful person and the most dangerous person, bar none. Bar none. That's something to be considering. So anyway, my friends, that is where we leave off today. Gematria Wombat says, lobotomy, trust the science. Yes. By the way, lobotomy is good. Lobectomy is even better. That's where you just remove it. Lobotomy is just cutting it. Cutting the, going in there through the, remember the guy, who was it? Was it Kathleen? Not Rosemary. It was Rosemary Kennedy, the one they got her. Through the orbit, the little tear ducts, right up there. Jiggle around. Remember that guy, what is his name? Phineas Gage, or I think his name was that his name? Who had the bar that went through he had a lobotomy first. He was working on a railroad. He had a spike or something, and they had put apparently explosive TNT or something, and it went up, and it's fascinating. You know, it's also interesting, ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, shock treatment. Very, very helpful in the cases of very, very deep and serious depression. In fact, Sherwin Newland, who wrote the book that I loved called How We Die, changed my life. This is Victoria Newland's father. He was a Yale surgeon. He had tremendously horrible bouts of depression, and he had ECT, shock treatment. Very mild, not that cuckoo's nest stuff. But it wipes out your memory for a while. And it can kind of reboot things. It's not to be used lightly, but in some cases, it actually helps. It's fascinating. And what happens is a lot of this stuff that Fox News wants you to do is they want to act almost like a lobotomy. They want you to forget. They want you to forget. How about this? Ditch UK Candace trolls you daily. Where is Ditch UK Candace? Let's see. There we go. Is this the one that says, Fauci, so don't engage and try to tell folk like me they are harmless when I called, put their, huh? What does that mean? I wish I could understand this. Let's see if I can get a good, something in English. Let me see. Give me a good one. Give me a good one. Let's see here. I'm looking. Oh, okay, here we go. Here we go. Ditch UK. Is this one? Fauci says the person who just asked how this is so mindless. Give me a good one. I'm going to get a good troll. Are you sure that I think you might be a troll saying, I want a troll that speaks English. Just English, who can put a word in. I guess maybe I'm asking too much. Anyway, let me know. I don't want to remove people, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't care. Trolling was much better in the old days. Much, much better. People were good. They knew what they were doing. They spoke in sentences. And it wasn't just for one person. They didn't say LOL. They, who LOL? What are you talking about? I've got this friend of mine who, whenever he talks, if you talk about a number of people, he'll say, so then he went in and he told she. So she said, who's she? There's 5 she's here. Which she are you talking about? He, she. Who? Who's she? What? Huh? Oh, where's my... All right, that's it. That's enough. You have a great and glorious day, my friend. Have a terrific day. Thank you. Tonight, we're going to be talking about if somebody else... I was going to do this first, but I changed it. Are there other people involved in the assassination and the removal and the expurgation of Charlie? I'm saying probably there's a good chance it's somebody we've never even thought about or even on the radar. We might be being given, Tyler aside, the real people behind this who we never knew about. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like the video. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell to be notified of live streams, new videos. I love you, my friends. Have a great and a glorious day. See you tonight. Don't know when. 8-ish, probably 8 o'clock. ET. See you then. Ta-ta. Oh, Monkey's Dead. Show's over. Ta-ta.